Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richard Silvio, and this is What's Happening Dracut. What's Happening Dracut is a political talk show here in town that is designed to keep you, the voter, informed and, at times, entertained. Let's start introducing some of my co-hosts. To my right, we have the hockey legend who will be starring in What's Happening Dracut on ice in a theater nowhere near you, Mr. Zimini. How are you?
Very good, Richard. Very good.
I'm going to be undercover for the rest of the night.
You should be undercover because the incoming is going to come quick. Yes, sir.
How's it going, John?
It's going great. It's going great. Where's your bird outfit today?
You're
a turkey, right? I want to know.
We'll rate me in the gobble game a little later on.
Okay, you got it. Everything's going well. Getting ready for the big day tomorrow. And
that's right.
Of course, the biggest day is Monday because that's when we start our 39th season at St. John's Prep.
Really?
39th hockey season, yeah.
Well, best of luck. I hope it's undefeated.
We're looking forward to it.
Good.
Yeah.
We also have Mr. Phil Thibault, who is the foundation of the Permanent Planning Board. How are you, Phil?
Very well. And yourself?
Fine. You looking forward to Thanksgiving?
I am. It's always good to see family and friends. My brother, beginning of the year, moved down to Florida, and he's coming back up. So it's going to be good to see him and some uncles and aunt.
Good old-fashioned family gathering.
Good old-fashioned family gathering and lots of good food.
Sounds good. The best part is the food, of course.
Well, sometimes.
We now go to Mr. Josh Taylor, the underdog of Dracut Politics. Hello, Josh. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Fine. Are you looking forward for Thanksgiving?
Well, we'll see how it goes. It'll be my first family gathering since about 2018. So
really? Wow.
Yeah. We'll play it by ear for tomorrow.
Are you hosting?
I am not hosting, no.
Oh, well, good for you.
Yeah. No.
All right. Well, we'll be back in a minute. But first, let's hear weather by Mr. Sean Kelly. Take it away, Sean.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on tonight, and here's the forecast for tonight. Low temps tonight near 30 degrees, 29 for us back here in Dracut tonight. Cloudy conditions, not expecting any rain or anything. Winds won't be that bad. They'll be coming out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles an hour. And then as we head into Thanksgiving Day itself, high temps in the low to mid 40s, 44 degrees with sun and clouds. And again, winds won't be that bad, 5 to 10 miles an hour. This is probably going to be your pick of the week. As we move into the week, the rain chances are starting to develop, especially as we head into Friday. As we head into Thanksgiving night, temps are going to drop to near 30 degrees with partly cloudy conditions. And then as we head into Friday, earlier this week it did look like there was going to be a chance for some wintry precip, but right now it does look like the chance is for some heavy rain. And with that, showers, and I think it will get heavy as we head into the noontime or a little bit into the afternoon hours as we enter Friday afternoon. So again, showers around, heavy as we enter the afternoon hours. And then it should weaken a little bit as we head into the overnight hours on Friday night, 41 degrees with cloudy conditions. And again, 20% chance for showers later on as that rain starts to move out. But we should pick up a decent amount of rain, maybe 1 to 2 inches if that, for some locations in the eastern Mass as we head into Friday. Here's a look at your exclusive 8-day forecast. So again, pick of the week is going to be on Thanksgiving, 44 degrees for a high temp. And then as we head into the weekend, Saturday right now looks like it's going to be mostly cloudy with high temps near 60 degrees, but there will be more clouds around, especially as we head into the second part of the weekend. And that is it for now, everyone. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Sean. Not as cold as I thought.
I know.
Coming in for Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving Day, yeah. Usually it's mixed beat there on Thanksgiving, so it's going to be interesting.
Do we know what Sean thinks for winter? Is he thinking it's going to be
I don't know. Do you?
I believe he has given an extended forecast on that.
Yeah.
I think it was supposed to be a little bit warmer, but maybe that's just wishful thinking.
With the El Nino, I believe that's still
it could be.
something.
I have to admit, I really don't recall very well. Although it's starting to sound like a good weekend to get in the last round of golf. So,
It's New England. Wake up, go outside and look.
That's right.
Now, before we move on, do we have sick call? Anyone that we want to send wishes to?
No, I haven't heard of anybody. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No major catastrophes over the last couple of days, I don't think.
Well, that's something we're grateful for. Why don't we take a look and see what President Joe Biden is grateful for?
Okay.
In this clip by Fox News. Let's take a look.
Okay.
we got to get on with this. First of all, the votes are in. They've been counted and verified. There's no ballot stuffing. There's no foul play. The only red wave this season is going to be a German Shepherd Commander knocks over the cranberry sauce on our table.
Time for the Hot Topic Buzz. That was President Biden at the White House annual Thanksgiving turkey pardon. He was making light of the midterm election results as the president cracks turkey jokes. New reports are showing that the price of this year's holiday feast is up better than 20% from last year. Catherine, your thoughts on the most expensive Thanksgiving meal we've seen in a long time?
Well, Biden's crack was pretty funny, Maria, but certainly, but food prices are going higher, you know, up 20% year over year. It's going to be an expensive Thanksgiving dinner. Everybody's going to be at home, you know, enjoying their time with their family, but talking about how expensive things are. Prices are the highest since 1979, especially on the food price costs. And look, things aren't looking like they're going to get better in the near term.
Wow, stuffing up 69%. I missed that one, Rob. Your thoughts?
I don't like stuffing that much anyway, or pumpkin pie, so I don't care how expensive it is. I'm just so happy he wasn't welcoming the Easter Bunny yesterday. Look, it is really, really a little tone deaf, too, because he's making a lot of jokes. And the average person right now, as they go to the supermarket, is in sticker shock as they walk out trying to prepare a meal for Thanksgiving. It might be the Swanson's turkey dinner that we'll have because that's about what people can afford right now. So it's a little bit of a damper on what's happening on Thursday, as much as we love this this holiday. But it is really, really expensive, and I know everyone's cutting back, including our family. Maybe you bring 2 pies instead of 3.
Wow, so the United States is on the verge of economic disaster, and President Biden likes to use his platform to crack a joke. Josh?
It wasn't that funny. The only thing that was funny there was the clown at the podium to me.
It's outrageous what the prices are now, Richard. You know, I went today to get some last minute things. I got 3 bags, and it was $90.
Wow.
Pound of butter
Oh, yeah.
was almost, you know, $5.
Wow.
Eggs were almost $4.50. I mean, a dozen eggs for $4.50.
I fill a cart now, it's $300 and change.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's easily $1,000 a month in groceries now.
I don't know how anybody can continue to afford this run. I don't understand where it's ending or when it's going to end. It doesn't seem like the president cares. Of course, he's, you know, living in the White House where we're paying for everything he does.
Isn't it amazing? You can't make it up.
No. I wonder if he reimbursed the federal government for that big granddaughter's wedding that he had last weekend at the White House.
Yeah.
I mean, is that something that's usual? I mean, do you have a relative?
I think there's only a handful of weddings that have been taking place at
and they're
at the
mostly
White House.
daughters, right, of the president.
Correct. I think Bush was the last one to have.
And this is a granddaughter.
Wow.
And who's going to pay the bill? You and I?
The American people.
More than likely.
Like every other policy of the Democratic Party.
But interestingly enough, when you looked at that picture of Biden wandering around the stage with 2 turkeys there, I was wondering what the big turkey was doing, just following around there, you know?
He was wondering for himself.
He was wondering himself. I mean, you know, he talked about the red wave, and we're probably going to get into that later on, but, you know, I think the Republicans did a lot better than people thought they might have.
You know, absolutely. Honestly, I can't believe the Democratic Party has pardoned Joe Biden for this long. But on the topic of Thanksgiving, I did actually want to touch on the midterms real quick and think, you know, what should the GOP be grateful for right now?
I don't know at this point.
Well, I would, you know, a year ago when we're talking about the elections, I think the only thing that the Republicans really wanted to do was take the House.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they seem to have been bolstered through, you know, over the last maybe 3 months or so, where they felt that they had a lot of momentum, and then they start talking about the big red wave. But if you look at it a year ago, I think they would look at today and say, we did well.
Yeah. I mean, we got the popular vote too, right? I believe for the first time
yeah,
since
they're not
2016.
talking about that. The Republicans won more votes in the populist section than anybody else in the country. So, I mean, they don't even mention that. But, you know, it's amazing if you listen enough to the spin. The spin is just beyond belief. how they spin everything. I mean, everything is spin. I'm getting so disgusted with it. I'm watching more of Mayberry than I am of the news.
You know, John, with me, you know, I'm right up there with you.
Yeah,
I think the poll says only 30% of I think Gallup says only 30% of Americans trust the media.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder why.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
I just don't get it because in Dracut, I mean, it was overwhelmingly Republican. All the Republicans won in
That's going to change
Dracut.
once my generation grows up, if they stick around.
Well,
that
of course,
That's
of course,
gonna
there's
change.
one Republican in town thinks it's because of them.
I wonder if we
And
can
I
take it-
use that
yeah.
pronoun because I don't want them to get upset on Thanksgiving Eve.
Although, to be fair, we aren't the ones who have brought lawsuits, you know.
Oh.
But just saying, just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, anyways.
So, yeah, Joshua, well, why do you think it is that we don't hear about Republican victories in the news?
Democrats don't want you to.
Isn't it?
News media is controlled by the Democrats, right?
Now, was it that
That's
bad as
right.
when you were growing up? Was it as bad?
I really didn't follow it that much when I was growing up. It's just too busy working.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what the majority of American people are doing, I feel, you know. The majority of American people...
We have to pay for our groceries.
It's not going to lighten up, that's for sure.
No, it's not.
So, Richard, what are you doing tomorrow?
Well, we're staying at home. We're hosting this year,
How many people we have?
including myself and my parents.
Yes.
4.
4? That's it?
Yeah, we're just bringing one of my mother's friends over, and we're just, you
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
going to hang out. I made an apple pie this evening.
Did you get the dessert invite?
Did I get the what?
Dessert invite?
No, I didn't.
I
get it.
didn't either.
I didn't
Oh,
get
it's
it.
in the mail.
Oh, okay.
It's in the mail.
Yeah.
With the check. Don't worry about it.
So my father used to do something that I bet Josh will appreciate. He used to go hunting up in Maine on Thanksgiving because it was a long weekend.
Yeah.
Really.
And so it would leave my mother and
Yeah.
The boys.
and towards the end, it was just myself because my brother and my sister had moved out. And I distinctly remember one year having Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh, God.
One year we had Chinese food.
Oh.
It's like, well, we're not cooking a big turkey just for a couple people.
Well, when I left the house tonight to come here, everyone was over my house, all my grandchildren and my daughters and my son-in-laws, and they had just ordered Chinese food.
Okay.
So when I go home, I'll have Chinese
You'll have some
food.
leftover Chinese
I'll have
food,
some
yeah.
leftover Chinese food when I get home. But yeah, we're going to have about 8-9 people tomorrow.
Wow, not bad.
I'm already
Full
tired
house.
just thinking about it. You know?
With all the grandkids running around and all that.
Yeah. Hey, you're a hell of a bowler. I
Oh,
gotta
God.
tell the
Oh,
people.
John.
You gotta
Oh,
tell
geez.
the people how you bowled last night.
Well-
he went to the geriatric bowl last night because we had the dinner club.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
This kid, I'm not even going to tell you what his score was, Josh, but the elders made him look silly.
Well, you know what, John?
Wow.
To be fair, I have statistics to back me up. I Googled this after we went bowling.
Yeah.
See, we went candlepin bowling. Was my first time ever picking up the ball, right?
You realize the ball's not supposed to go down the gutter, right?
Yeah,
It's supposed to
right.
go down the middle of the.
He won
It
that.
wasn't?
He won in that department.
Oh, okay.
Gutter ball.
I mean, I wasn't there. Just speculation.
Yeah,
on my
But
part.
no. If you check the statistics, the average first-time beginner bowler in candlepin scores between 50 and 70, and we'll just say I was within that range.
Did you make it to 50?
I made it a little over. I think I was around 54, but the point was I made it. Just like the GOP, it doesn't matter how large the majority is. The point is you made it over the threshold.
Yeah.
But on the topic, see, this is what I love about hosting a show. Ready? Are you ready for this? Pivot. On the topic of reviewing, let's talk about town meeting. Is this the first show we've had since?
Well, wait a minute. We have somebody pushing back on us.
Oh no, already.
Yeah. Pamela Eaton Grant. She must be one of those woke people because
Oh,
she's saying that it was the 18th wedding in the White House.
The 18th.
That sounds awfully high to me.
That's all awfully high. And the Bidens paid for it. No. The Russian-Chinese connection and the Ukrainians paid for that. What are you talking about? You know, we forget all about that. And you need to get your facts straight, she's selling us. Well, I didn't put any facts out there. I
Neither
just
did I.
asked. I was
It
just
was
wondering who
speculation.
paid for it. Right?
We're
And
just
I'm
asking
guessing that
questions.
they didn't pay for every little thing. Did they pay for the rental of the house? I'd like to
doubt
know what they paid.
Let's see if they'll release the bill.
Yeah.
Let's see. I doubt it.
No. Just like Hunter Biden's laptop wasn't real.
And then,
Of course,
and then CBS releases an apology.
Until CBS says it's real, right? But anyways, So the bowling extravaganza last night was fun, but
Yes, I'll put the pictures on Facebook.
do you know tomorrow is Turkey Day in Dracut too? Don't they have a home? Do they have the home game tomorrow?
Yes, they do.
They
Yes,
do.
against
Against
Methuen.
Methuen.
That's right.
And you know who's doing color for that game?
Who?
George Dristelaris.
Really?
Yes, he'll be the color commentator on that show, and hopefully he'll call in later on and tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I look forward to
You
it.
know, but yeah. So that's it, right?
Interesting.
Turkey Day in Dracut tomorrow.
Turkey Day in Dracut, absolutely. But no, let's move on to town meeting for a
Okay.
minute. So one of the things, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this evening, I wanted to talk about the Greater Lowell Tech School Committee
Oh yeah.
and the request for a stipend. That vote was deferred, correct?
No, it was dismissed.
It was dismissed. So we would have to be reintroduced then for next?
It could be.
They would have to. I mean, I don't think there's anything that prohibits them from bringing it back earlier than, you know.
Yeah, because
Oftentimes,
it wasn't
if it's
voted on, so if it was
Right.
voted on, it couldn't come back, but it was
Right.
dismissed at Ken, is my understanding.
that's
Now,
correct.
Josh, you were at town meeting, right?
I was at town meeting.
Now, were you in favor of the Greater Lowell Tech stipend? Or are you in favor of any stipend, I suppose, for the
Well, be
Greater Lowell
careful
Tech?
with that question because some people are in favor of stipends,
Well, yes.
but
yes.
maybe not in favor of giving people that don't show up at meetings
Well,
stipends.
I'll answer it, it's okay.
Go ahead.
Personally, I'm not in favor of a stipend. If I were to make any of those boards, I wouldn't take it. I'm not doing it for the stipends, so. As far as what they were after, the 5,000 was a bit steep. If it was a more reasonable number, then they may have had my support and a vote on it.
Yeah, because
But-
we have a good friend, John McDonough, who says you get what you pay for.
Well,
Yeah, but you know,
I
John
don't
McDonough,
necessarily believe that all the time.
I don't believe that either.
You can also overpay for what you get.
That's true.
This is true.
No, I believe, you know, John McDonough's a good guy and he thinks everybody's a nice person.
Yeah.
Until they cross John McDonough. And I'm sure John's probably watching tonight. I hope he's watching
I think he
tonight.
is.
Hey, we got DJ Deeb watching. He
Yes,
must
I
be
just-
home. He must be home. But what was I going to say now? Oh, okay. So John McDonough doesn't agree with you or us on whether or not a person should have a stipend. And I'm always accused of saying that I don't think that public officials should have stipends, and that's just not true.
Yeah.
I believe that when times are tough and you don't give pay raises to your employees, then I think the politically elected people should be
First to give it back.
should give it back. Should not accept it during that time. You know, I agree with Josh. You should be able to do it. You should want to do it out of the goodness of your heart. But some people want to do it, and they always claim this fake, phony thing about, well, you know, it costs a lot to run. Well, then don't run if it's going to
knew what you
cost
were
a lot
getting
to
into.
You
run.
have choices in life.
Yeah.
I mean-
or have a campaign committee that raises funds. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, to say that, oh, well, I got to buy tickets. No, you don't have to buy tickets. And if you want to support another candidate with monies that you collect from other people that are supporting your candidacy, isn't that kind of a ridiculous reason?
I mean, we
to
saw the
raise-
we saw the dangers in the last school committee race of running as a joint ticket.
Right, Phil. If you donate to my campaign, you're donating to me, not for me to donate to somebody else.
So I will admit I have received donations from other people's campaign funds. I have never donated to a campaign fund out of my campaign
Right.
funds. I have always written the check myself.
Right. I don't do that either, and more likely than not, and I don't recall 100%. So I'm not going to put my feet to the fire, but I don't recall whether or not I ever donated money out of my campaign fund to different things. I mean, I still donate, and I haven't ran in 15 years. I donate to different things, but I guarantee you that someone out there is putting donations on their income tax that they really didn't make. Those donations they really didn't make because, like they say, you know, everybody tries to find the loopholes, but only President Trump gets knocked
Oh, of course.
for using the loopholes that are out there.
Should that R be switched to a D in front of his name?
Oh
It
yeah,
wouldn't-
it'd
it
be a
wouldn't
whole
be an
different,
issue.
be a whole different issue.
But speaking of throwing money around, I found, Phil, very interesting that Matt Sheen's excuse seemed to be, well, you guys deserve a raise too. You get a raise, you get a raise, you get a raise.
I did think
How
it was.
ridiculous
I did
that?
think it was an Oprah show. That's for sure. The way everybody, you know, throwing out money and,
Well,
you know, I'm very much in the same like that. you know, everybody says I'm not running for the money.
Yeah.
Although I've heard Mr. Dracut once say, they owe me the respect of paying me a stipend, which means that, okay, so we owe you a tribute.
Right.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Right. It's just beyond belief that why people will do that. And most of the time, the people, first of all, the people that were standing up at that town meeting that were advocating for it were all the people who were at some point in their life on the dole, right? B, it's never enough when you're at the trough.
Yeah.
And C, they're all advocating for themselves to get raises. Why not have somebody advocate for you that wasn't involved in the raise?
You know, it's like the wonderful Animal Farm by George Orwell. You know, the more and more power the pigs got, the more and more they wanted.
That's right.
And the more and more they were able to manipulate the rules until they got what they wanted.
That's right.
And speaking of manipulating rules,
And we're all equal, except some of us are more equal than others.
Did you know that the regional school committee gets served dinner before them by the regional school before their meetings? Did you know that?
I did not know that.
They have a little what they call a collation before they have their meetings. So I don't care if it's pizza.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's tapioca pudding or if it's steak.
We're
it's
paying
still
for
not
it.
right.
Yeah.
And somebody is paying for it. And who do you think is paying for it?
The taxpayer.
The taxpayer's paying for it.
Now, I think Tony made a good point with that proposal, Josh, where he said if you read it slowly and look at the wording, does it mean that we pay all of the members a stipend and not just Dracut? Do you think that was by design?
I don't know if it was by design, if it was just by sheer mistake on how whoever worded it. But the whole thing just didn't have enough forethought going into it.
Yeah.
If all towns have to be voting the same dollar figure and you're all going after different dollar figures, it was way too much confusion with that whole thing for anybody to make an educated vote on it. You know, if we voted yes to 2,000 and the other communities said yes to 5, we're on the hook to pay the 5.
Can you imagine the pandemonium if we voted yes and then figured out we had to pay all members? Can you imagine the fallout that would receive?
It would be quite a bit.
You know, I think that raises the question with town meeting. Is open town meeting an antiquated system? And I ask that because if you look at Bill Greenwood, right, great friend of mine, I love him, he's a fantastic guy. But that article that he proposed, I feel like it was far too complex for town meeting.
Well, the bottom line is, the answer to your first question is yes, I believe the town meeting is antiquated because all you get at town meeting, the great Roger Daigle, who most of our viewers won't even remember, but he was one that would sit and had a television show and would talk about how everyone at town meeting, or the large majority of people at town meeting, have a special interest in it because they're public employees somewhere along the line. And that's all well and good. I don't think because you're a public employee you should be exempt from voting on town issues. But 99% of the time, the town meeting is dominated by those who have an agenda. And their special interests, as Roger would say. The bottom line is that they shouldn't, he would say that town meeting is antiquated because of that.
Right.
But we have almost a $90 million budget.
Yep.
All right. And I mean, we depend on 175, 200 people to make the decision on that. It should be
certainly
the town
raises some
council.
eyebrows.
I think we got a call.
Yes, I think we have a telephone call. Hello, caller.
Hi, John just, wanted me to call in and discuss the football game tomorrow morning. I don't mean to interrupt you guys.
No, not at all.
No, not at all. Go right ahead. What's happening, George?
Dracut plays tomorrow against Methuen, and they have like reverse records. Methuen's coming into the game 8-3, haven't made the Eastern Mass playoffs, while Dracut comes into the game 3-8. It's certainly a Dracut win tomorrow is a major upset, but we'll see. I'm kind of looking forward to it. I actually went out and saw from the road Dracut practice the other day, and we'll see how they do. Now it's going to be simulcast with Methuen with Methuen Access Cable also, so that should be interesting. We should have a good audience.
And there it is up on the bulletin board here at Dracut. And George, I mean, thanks for calling in and giving the plug. And that's at 9 What does it start at?
9:55
The
tomorrow?
game starts at 10.
Oh, great.
Yep, on channel 22.
22 on in Dracut Access Television. Oh, good.
And then if you're watching this show on Facebook because you don't have cable, you can go on the Dracut Access TV website.
Or you can view it on YouTube, right?
Oh yes, I believe so.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
George?
That's right.
Or you
But,
can
and
watch it
another
live.
thing, though,
That's-
it should be fun if you can't get to the game because you're cooking or you got a lot of family in town. You can see us on channel 22, and we'll try to give you a good picture of what's happening in the game. That's my job. I'm doing color, which is I'm not doing play-by-play anymore. I'm just kind of describing the action. So my years of experience hopefully comes through.
Where did you coach football again, George?
At Bishop Girton up in Nashua, my alma mater.
There you go. His alma mater. What year was that, George?
What year I coached and what year
did you graduate?
1974.
Wow.
1974. Wow.
Wow. See that, George? We would be considered dinosaurs today. I'm 1971. You're 74. But you had a stellar career as a football player, right?
I was okay.
You were okay. Oh,
And
modest
modest,
George.
too. And modest.
Modest George. All right, George.
Well,
Say hello to that wonderful wife of your former select woman, Tammy Dristolaris, and have a great Thanksgiving tomorrow. Thanks for calling in.
Thanks, guys. Oh, by the way, Richard.
Yes.
Richard in bowling did fine. As I witnessed it, he just needs a little coaching.
Thank you, George. Thank you. Somebody comes to my defense. It's about time. Thank you.
Oh, your father
thanks,
came to your
everybody.
defense, and he says,
Talk to
Oh
you
no,
tomorrow.
let's not.
George,
Oh no.
did you say something, George?
I'm done.
All right, see you later,
Stay
buddy.
warm.
Yeah.
Your father said that his high was 186,
Oh yeah.
his high score.
That's part of those alternative facts we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Alternative fact,
Alternative
yeah.
facts.
And now Angel wrote in and said that she'd like to have. What was it she wanted to know here? She wanted to. I'm sorry, Angel. She wanted the explanation as to what the $5,000 threshold was. Well, the $5,000 threshold, I believe, is where if you make it as a select person, $5,000, or a school committee person, you could be eligible for insurance.
That's
So,
right.
An elected official.
And elected officials, right? Correct. So that's an
Plus,
important threshold.
and I
to meet.
believe it also puts you into the retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah. And any stipend, I believe that a elected official gets, if they already have a public job, I think that's part of it. That can
it
be
would add
included
to it, right.
in their retirement. So yeah. So
Well, there was another article
yeah.
at town meeting that seemed to pass with overwhelming support. Josh,
Yeah.
we saved Beaverbrook Farm. Now what?
We did. Now what?
What happens next?
Well, the Beaverbrook Farm Ad Hoc Committee has to work on a plan for a future use for the seed shed and get that pushed through.
And you served on? You served on the ad hoc?
I did. Unfortunately, I don't serve in any town committees anymore as
You
of
don't?
last Monday, but
That's news to me.
it's not news to you.
No, it's not news. No, it's not news to me.
But the ad hoc committees are going to have to come up with a final use for it and get a plan put forward.
Well, you had some ideas yourself. I believe you said an ice skating ring. Is
That
true?
wasn't my idea. That was just one that the committee was working on, and it's my understanding from the meeting last night that they actually got that, 2 nights ago, they got that approved.
Really?
So the town manager finally conceded and allowed them to move forward with an ice skating rink.
So speaking of ice skating rinks, of course, that was part of the major push that kind of got you to resign. So I know those meetings are recorded via
Yeah.
audio. So why don't we take a listen and see what occurred?
Okay.
Should we look into getting a policy that covers us for sledding and ice skating so that we don't have to keep going back and forth on it and let the kids go enjoy the pond?
The town cannot take on that responsibility. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The town can't say, yes, put in a skate rink without meeting code and all this other fun stuff. That's just the reality of it.
I'm talking
We're
about
not trying to be
insurance
difficult.
There may be some path to the insurance.
Yeah.
We'll know by next meeting.
Well,
We'll fill you in on that.
That would probably cover the same insurance binder as the ice skating rink would, so if it's the Friends of Beaverbrook Farm that pulls the insurance
And
binder.
maybe
it's
the
probably
town
covered
council will say to me, you know what, they're good to go. All right, great.
Okay.
But we have new town council from last year. Everything's different. I mean, you gotta understand that we have responsibilities as town employees to make sure the rules are followed so that we don't get a lawsuit.
We understand that.
And that's
We're
what we're
asking
doing.
for the answers
So-
so we can get the right
So
stuff.
I don't
in
have
place.
them off the top of my head.
Okay. If you can look into it and get back to that.
Why does it have to be so argumentative with you?
I didn't-
Seriously.
I'm not arguing.
I mean,
I didn't
what the
take-
hell?
I didn't
All right,
take
all right,
that.
very confident.
I resigned from this committee. Have a great night.
Everything's so difficult.
Oh, come on.
Have a good night.
There was no animosity there. That was
I'm all set.
That was just
These are
information.
possible.
I officially resigned from conservation and CBC also. Have a good night.
See ya.
Well, I didn't see that coming.
Every time I tell, he asks me a question, I get an answer, he doesn't like it, he gets pissed off. It's like, what are we supposed to do? I can't sit here and tell
Well, that's how
everybody
discussions
they
go.
can do A,
It's-
B, and C
it's,
without
you know,
doing B, E, and F.
How unprofessional.
Very professional.
What the hell, Josh?
Unprofessional.
What the hell? You know,
See ya.
it's funny. All I wanted was an answer of if we could do it, or what do we need to do it.
Yeah.
It's not like we sprung this on her that night. We've been asking her for over a year.
So
this
for those who
information.
couldn't really hear it that well, why
Yeah.
don't you explain it, what happened here?
Well, the newly elected chair, Mr. Martin, asked about the ice skating rink and asked about insurance, and we were met with resistance again. Same thing that's been going on when we asked about it at the beginning of this committee, about a year ago. And it was, we can't do it. We have responsibilities. We can't just buy a policy. And my question to her was, what do we need to do? Can we fundraise to raise money to buy a policy so that the kids, the people of this community can have a skating rink there for something to do? She didn't like that and just, you heard it, what the hell? I'm not going to volunteer to be yelled at by anybody.
Right.
So I just said, you know what, just take me off, I'm all set. And the funny part about that is I'm not even home yet. I resigned from the committee, I walk out of the room, and I get an email. I'm CC'd on, and she had asked the town's insurance agent about insurance. And when I wake up, I check my email again, we've been insured all along for this.
Wow.
Oh,
So
my
for over a
God.
year, we've been asking for a skating rink, and she says it's not possible, we can't provide insurance for it. They had to take the snowman down for the sledding hill last year because we weren't insured for it. If it's free, we're insured.
Right.
That's what it said.
See?
Wow.
So for all this, and every step of the way from this committee, every time you bring up an idea, it's just resistance. And I just had enough of it.
That's the history of Dracut, Josh.
Well, I get it.
That's the history of Dracut, Josh. It's a shame. You can't be, I hate to use the word progressive because in my mind it means something other than being in the forefront of good things, right? So progressive today is a catchword for a lot of it's socialism, but in a manner in which if the town could ever get out of the dark ages and stop worrying about nonsensical stuff, we'd be in a better place. I mean, providing an open area for skating for the town's children, adults, whomever, is a good thing.
It is.
It's a good thing.
You listened to the tape. Did I sound aggressive to you?
Not at all.
No.
It's because I was asking for information.
Yeah. Well, anytime
she didn't want to give out.
Anytime someone asks or pushes back or asks, they don't want any questions, Josh.
No, it's not
I
that
know
they don't
that.
want questions. They don't want to do anything.
That's right.
And there's always an excuse not to do something. In this case, we can't afford, we don't have the insurance.
But we've had it.
Right. And, I mean, I've asked questions about some of the parks, and they said, well, we can't do anything with our parks because they're all under Department of Conservation and Recreation in Boston. So I had asked somebody who I knew was knowledgeable, and they said, no, there's no parks in Dracut that are owned by DCR. You can do anything you want with those parks.
Right.
But
They actually said that to you?
Yes, they did.
Oh,
They just
wow.
they throw out these big, what they hope are kind of big lies that
Right.
that kind of just catch you, and they must know what they're talking about. Now, when I first started getting interested in politics in Dracut, I had a very high admiration for anybody who was elected, and then I started paying attention, and I said, "My God, these people are idiots."
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. The truth of the matter is, Phil hit the nail on the head. There is a certain amount of people that don't want to do anything extra because it means they have to do something to get that accomplished, right?
Yeah.
But the one thing that Ann would not want to do is spend any more money.
Right.
And it expends money to build a rink, or you might have to buy a rink. But Josh hit it on the head too.
You had people that were going to volunteer to
to
build
do
it,
it. Right.
supply all the material. The only expenditure is insurance, which is already included.
So what they really want to do is buy a $6 million farm and say, we preserve this farm.
And let it
But
rot.
the people can't go on it.
Yeah.
You buy an open space so that you, as a resident of Dracut, can go walk on it, can nature hunt on it, do something on it, right? But no. You have members of the Board of Selectmen who sit there in their pontification chair and they're high and almighty next door down there at, what's the name of that street down there that the chairman lives on? Where the
Tennis Plaza?
Tennis Plaza. They're in Tennis Plaza, their kingdom of Tennis Plaza. We can't have anything going on that's going to bring any people to Beaverbrook Farm, right? That's what she's doing. She ran for the Board of Selectmen based on her activity of discovering that they were overbuilding on a trail.
Wow.
Right?
You know, it's horrible that...
And then she won. And since then, she doesn't want anything down there.
Isn't it horrible that it seems town administration is handicapping the DPW? Because the DPW is such a fantastic group of people, and it seems they want to take on projects. They go out there, they get the job done, but town administration is handicapping them.
Yeah.
Isn't that horrible?
Yeah, you know that. You get firsthand reasons to know that, too.
Yeah, I
Because
absolutely do.
you got, you did something with a monument, and the monument is much more improved since you took that under. And you wanted some different things done, and the town administrator would tell you, no, you can't do that. We can't do that. But you got the cooperation of DPW, and they went down there and did it.
They were wonderful. Cooperation every step of the way.
A lot of the same story. We just don't have the staff for that. It just takes time.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't have the funding. We can't do it.
That's what they always say.
It's a record back. If you listen to the whole tape, I brought up, why don't we apply for grants for things at that farm? And I was told in the meeting, we don't have a grant writer. We can't do it. It's not allowed.
You do have a grant writer.
Well, the town doesn't have a grant writer. I said, well, can we as members look into it? Well, that's for staff to do, and we don't have a grant writer. If you went to the selectmen's meeting last night, they listed off a bunch of grants. Victor just read off all his reports and grants, and all of a sudden that was a magnificent idea. And Alice and Jeanette said, at Ad Hoc, we're talking about using, getting grants to do stuff at Beaverbrook Farm.
It's a magnificent idea because she said it.
Oh, of course.
I'll go back to the tape and see who said what. But
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just, it's amazing
Well,
how
people don't pay
it twists
attention.
and turns, and
Yeah.
it's all right.
Josh, she mentioned in the recording that you guys seem to argue all the time. Every step of the way, there's an argument. Have you guys had interactions in the past that weren't
I've never had
exactly-
an argument on any town board meeting.
Wow.
Between the board members, right? No, there's never.
I've never had an argument with anybody there, not to my recollection.
Yeah.
But
So what is
I'm
she referring
also,
to? Do you have any
because
idea?
I want answers.
Yeah.
I'm not one that's going to sit at a meeting that drives me insane.
You're too confrontational. We have another phone call.
Hello?
Caller?
Yeah, Richard, I just looked it up. Frog Pond in Boston has no insurance policy. It's skate at your own risk.
Skate at your own risk. Yeah. That's at the Frog Pond in Boston at the Boston.
So why do
Common.
we need one?
That's right. That's a great place, isn't it, Richard?
Yeah. It's a great question. If
This is Richard's father, by the way.
Oh, well, you had to put it up.
Richard's father. Yeah. So Rich, you go to the Frog Pond, you slip and fall. Who's responsible?
You are.
You are.
You are, right? Right. So you can put that up. I mean,
Your mother and father are.
Yeah, exactly.
So why would it be any different?
It's
And
not.
Drake-
It's not. That's the whole point.
But
You
yet
go
we
to
had to
beach,
find out that
you
we
go
were
to the
covered
beach,
before.
There's no lifeguard on duty. It's swim at your own risk.
What's that?
When you go to the beach, on DCR beach, it's
Right.
no lifeguard. It's swim at your own risk.
That's
Swim at your own
right.
risk, yeah.
That's right.
So I mean, there are insurance policies that kind of blanket the municipalities, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that in Boston they have a blanket that covers essentially the Frog Pond. If my understanding is if you're not charging
I
money
just
for
looked it up.
it,
It's
then
you're using
you're
your own
essentially at your
risk.
own risk.
Yeah. As long as it's free, it's included.
Yeah. So, Beno, you brought up a good point. Now, I guess I'll see you when I get home.
Good to talk to you, Rich.
Goodbye.
Happy Thanksgiving. So, Josh,
Yeah.
you get all of this pushback and everything. So now that we have saved the squash barn, right? That passed.
So,
Or stabilize, I guess.
well, what I was saying is you asked a question about why, right? I said, what drives me absolutely crazy is you have boards. Could be any board. Could be the ad hoc, could be a commission, could be selectmen. And the chair asks for input. And you get everybody sitting there not asking a question. So I think the problem here is I was always asking questions. I would come to the meeting with a list of questions. And I wanted answers to them. And if I didn't get answers that night, at the next meeting, I'd ask for an answer to the question I asked you a month before. I guess that's aggressive. Maybe that was
You're too aggressive,
That
yeah.
that might be where they have that too aggressive part because if you're going to volunteer to be on a committee or a board in town and you're there for the betterment of the community, you owe it to the community to do your damn job and ask questions.
They want you to be a lap puppet.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Nod your head, yes, and make
That's
sure.
not going to happen with me.
Yeah, well,
so.
that's what most of the boards in town, not all of them, there are people that speak up and do great jobs, but if it's a board that they want to control, then you have the manager there or the manager's surrogate is there and telling you, well, the manager wants this. When I served on the finance committee, when I first moved to town, a member of that board who asked me to come on the finance committee, and I did, and she says to me, I can use the word she, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so she says to me, when I'm questioning the manager, she says, well, she's our boss, or he's our boss, the manager's our boss.
Yeah, no.
No, the manager is not your boss.
That, unfortunately, I think has been lost in this town. The Board of Selectmen are the boss.
Right.
They're supposed to control the manager.
Right.
The manager's not managing people well. If the people skills aren't there, then there should be an avenue to work with the manager to better those skills. If the manager refuses to better the skills, then go on the hunt. But
Right.
give the opportunity. The management process is the opportunity to do the betterment, right? If somebody's on a board and has a problem, the manager shouldn't attack them at a meeting. They should say, we should probably talk about that and find a
Right.
solution to the problem. That doesn't happen in this town.
Well, you see what
The manager thinks that she's the dictator of the town.
Well, what
and,
you did.
And the selectmen
Yeah.
listen to her.
That's
And
right.
everybody in town hall does what she wants. Look at the turnaround rate of who's leaving town hall and everything else. It speaks for itself, John.
Well, no question about it, but it's always been that way in town, and you've got guys and gals on that board of selectmen who have raised the manager up to a position where they think that they're the dictator of the town and they want to dictate what every board does. Now, Phil serves on several boards, and those boards are important. The Permanent Building Committee is important. The Finance Committee is important.
Yeah.
And the Finance Committee is supposed to be the check and balance between the finances of the town and the manager so that the manager doesn't do any hanky-panky, right?
Yeah.
And it's not owned by the manager. But yet the manager sits at those meetings and makes sure that, I used to say it all the time, you're not our boss. We're here to make sure that you are doing the right thing with the money on behalf of the town.
At the ad hoc level, part of the frustrations, we were all supposed to be equals. We were all voting members in the beginning. And then this was the first meeting that Allison, the previous chair, and Ann were no longer voting members. They're both advisory. But that didn't happen.
No.
It sounded like they
Ann
controlled
still
all the
wanted to control the
conversation.
meeting.
Very much so, yes.
So, and I just, you can only go around so much, and I had enough with it. Just
Josh,
move on to other topics.
I think I speak for the rest of us when I say I think Dracut has lost a fantastic asset on those boards. What would need to happen for you to consider rejoining? What would need to change?
I don't think that's an option at this point. I already got my official letter that says my resignation was accepted.
Yeah.
So, what would have to change? Simple communication could have solved that in the beginning. Like I said, back when I ran for selectman, communication is the thing, right?
Right.
That could have solved the problem. What has to happen now? I don't see it happening. I'd love to help in any way I can, but there's plenty of other things in this town that I can focus my energy on and help with. It doesn't have to be those particular boards.
Such as a seat on the Board of Selectmen.
Well, that could very well happen in the future at some point.
I'd like to see it, soon. I'd like to see it run soon because you'd give them a fit, I'm sure, again. I asked you the question earlier now that we
Yep.
have saved that barn, and that's basically what we did.
Yep.
We didn't designate what's going to happen with it, but we saved it from deterioration and
Correct.
from falling apart, and essentially the town voted at town meeting that we want to save that building.
Overwhelmingly
So
supported
what
it.
happens now with that building?
Well, what happens now is they've already signed all the contracts. They're supposed to do it, weather permitting, in the next 60 days to get in there and start the process of preserving it. And again, the ad hoc committee, if they're not dissolved by then, you know, the manager at town meeting got up and said she was dissolving the ad hoc committee.
How does she dissolve any committee?
Well, she doesn't even appoint it, but in her speech to try to deter people from, you know, supporting it, she said that she was dissolving the ad hoc committee live at town meeting. I don't know how that's legal or possible, but it was said in any case. So if you know, she has her way, it's just going to go to the wayside, and it'll be unfortunately a waste of $250,000 at that point.
Right.
But if the citizens group and everybody else keeps pushing, and the citizens, if you know what, if people at home care, write a letter to the town manager. Say you want to see the farm saved. People in town's voices matter, but you have to get them to her desk.
Yeah.
So I mean, one point on that you're raising, you know, throwing out ideas of what it could be used for, and
Yeah.
I know several ideas have been thrown out. And again, it's the big lie that, you know, there's a little bit of truth in it. That's why it sounds so believable. That, well, we don't even know if it's zoned for that. Now, mind you, the zoning bylaws say if it's a municipal building, it can go in any zone.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's an R3, in a residential zone, an industrial zone. If
Well,
it's a
maybe-
municipal building, which the seed shed wood is, then any use can be permitted in it.
I heard speculation that the town manager dissolved the zoning bylaw review committee, so maybe that has
Well,
to
that
play
might
in.
be- that might be
maybe
some
that has to
discussion
play-
a little
play-
later on
play
the
into
show.
this, if maybe that's a way to avoid having anybody find out about you can zone it for anything, because it's a municipal building.
Well, shouldn't the manager know what's zoned where? What is able to be zoned?
Well, again, it's that, you know, half the truth is often a great lie.
No.
That-
Delegation
that-
again, though. She doesn't have to know everything. You got to cut her a little slack. But she should be able to call the department head of that particular area and say, hey, I need an answer by my next meeting of what we're going to do here.
I think if you asked any town manager, where could a municipal building go? In what zone?
That should
they
be
would
pretty
say
basic.
any zone.
Yeah.
We put them where we need them.
I'm going to tell you this. If we asked Dennis Peendack a zoning question, 9 out of 10 times he would tell
He
you
would
what
probably-
the zone was, what was allowed
He would
in
have-
that
he
zone.
would- he'd
And
certainly
if he
have a good
wasn't
idea.
sure, he would say, well, I'll get back to you. But
Yeah.
Dennis Peendack knew what he was talking about, and he didn't have to bluff his way through it. He didn't have to bluff his way through it. And I see the current town manager doing that a lot. And like you say, if I don't have an answer to it, I'll make it up, and then if it's a lie, and I'll apologize if somebody points it out. But you never see any apology from this town manager. She's just she's constantly trying to make you know that she's the boss. Constantly. It's a constant problem. When you have to tell people that you're the boss and your own confidence is that low that you have to keep reminding people that you're the boss, then that's a problem. That's a problem with confidence, but it's also a problem with being able to effectuate what direction the town is going to go into. You know, nobody had to be reminded by Dennis who the boss is in terms of who runs the town, but the bosses of the town are the selectmen. And you got 2 or 3 members of the selectmen who only kowtow to one selectman, right?
No.
And that's Joe DeRocco. Whatever Joe DeRocco wants, they get.
People should be focusing on solving these problems
It's-
instead of
it's
focusing
not
on
gonna
who's
happen.
going to be the boss on which given day and who's going to have a say in what.
Yeah.
If our administration and selectmen, everybody spent as much time working on a problem as they do fighting each other, think how much better we'd be. It's crazy.
But I
It is
understand that this business of her saying that she was going to dissolve a committee came up on the radio also. If I was on the Board of Selectmen, there would be hell to pay. You don't have the right to dissolve a committee that's created by the selectmen. Who are you to do that? You work for us.
Yeah.
You know? It's the same way with the legal department. The town legal department is appointed by the selectmen. He or she or they or them or whatever pronoun you want to use
Yeah.
works for the town with the selectmen as their boss. But you see that town manager turn into the legal department or the legal counsel all the time, and the legal counsel has already got in their little book, they just turned to the page where they've discussed it with the town manager, and this is what they're going to say.
I said this back when I sat in all the meetings when they were going through this, last year, picking a new council, and I remember the meeting where the town manager wanted to be the direct contact to the legal counsel.
Yeah.
And I thought at that time, I said, that's ridiculous. It should be the secretary to the selectman who's the contact to the attorney, in my opinion. Selectmen issue something that they want an answer. The town manager can send an email to that secretary, I need an answer. And she should be, or he, or whoever it is at the time.
Or the chairman of the board, whoever the chairman is.
I personally, I think it ought to be the secretary of the selectmen so that she can take the answer and give it to the appropriate people in town hall that need it and be the go-to person to have it all on file.
Makes sense. Makes some sense.
So.
Makes some sense. Absolutely.
And I will mention before the show, I did leave a voice message earlier today for Ann Vandal.
Oh, really?
Letting her know that we were going to have a discussion tonight, and I gave her an opportunity to email me with some sort of a response or a statement to remain fair, and I received no such correspondence.
Of course not.
So I think that also speaks volumes alone.
Right. So she
As
had
to
an
her
opportunity to talk to you, to make a statement.
She absolutely did, yeah. All day.
So didn't she, or isn't she going on the Ion Dracut show? Maybe she'll come in and talk.
What's that show?
What?
Puke on Dracut?
Something like that. Ion Allison, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I've heard, but.
That's #1, award-winning show, The only difference is it's a paid award.
My point is, if the
Somebody
town
paid
manager
for that award.
if the town
30,000
manager's going to go on one
views.
show, she should accept an invitation to all the shows that want to have her on.
Oh, no, that's not going to happen.
Well, that would be bipartisan.
Well, and you got to understand that the I'm not going to mention the name, but the person who their show, the show is run by, is the husband of the chairman of the Board of Selectmen. So if she doesn't go on their show, then of course,
You get the axe.
My simple thing is
the
that it
point.
should be fair. If you're going to go on one, you go on all of them.
Yeah, forget about it. Forget about it. So what else?
So I know we were bouncing the word zone and zoning around, which I think is a great talking point to bring us to our next topic, which is the postponing of the bylaw review committee. Phil, I know you had some pretty strong words to say about this, so...
So I had put in an application to be one of the alternates on the zoning bylaw review committee. And they were supposed to have interviews this past Thursday. My understanding was there were three people were chosen to be interviewed. And then on Wednesday morning, I think, maybe, I got an email from Alice Mnuchin. Also copied on it was the secretary of the Board of Selectmen, and I think town manager's secretary, and the two other applicants saying that the interviews were canceled.
Now, what gives Ms. Mnuchin the right to, or the authority rather, to cancel?
That was my question when I wrote back an email to her saying that I was disappointed that they'd been canceled. She had indicated that one of the applicants wasn't available that night, and so I had written in my email response that typically the interviews would have continued with those who could attend, and then there would have been some
makeup date
for the person who couldn't, or if they couldn't make a reasonable time, then they would be essentially removed from the list.
Reasonable accommodations or forfeited for lack of.
And I assume crickets.
Well, I haven't heard a response, but I know Heather Santiago Hutchins.
Yes.
They kind of brought it up at a selectman meeting that as of Tuesday it might have been Wednesday at 4:00 in the afternoon, everything was going to be continuing, and then by 6:00 that evening, everything was canceled.
So what do you think happened?
So what happened in the the assumption is that there was a meeting between Allison Mnuchin, who is the community development director, Ann Vandal, our town manager.
And of course, this is speculation.
Well, they really didn't deny it in the meeting. And Allison Janest about what was the path forward for this particular committee.
Just out of curiosity, is Allison on this committee?
Allison
Jeunesse?
no.
Is Ann on it?
No.
Why would they be interfering with a committee that somebody else is on?
And Heather is the selectman representative.
Oh,
and
that was my point.
And she's blindsided by this whole thing about canceling the meeting. And that's one thing that Heather was very upset about. So, there was, why are we canceling this meeting? The selectmen are complaining that the process is taking too long, but the selectmen, of course, have been stymieing the process all along. Even in a previous meeting, there was a big discussion about did Joe Dracut not was there somebody that Joe Dracut did not want appointed to this subcommittee?
That question was asked by a member of the board.
Yes.
And Joe shot back at that person
Yeah,
and said,
it looks like there's somebody that you want from that committee, and Heather responded there were at least 6 people in the master plan committee that she thought would be excellent for the zoning bylaw.
Right.
As a matter of fact, one of them would have been John Crowley. I mean, he'd been on zoning for 40 years, I think, or
But
something.
Phil,
like
the big elephant in the room isn't John Crowley.
No.
Great guy, and he'd be excellent at it. But the elephant in the room, and that they don't want to talk about, is you. They don't want you. There's 3 candidates. There's you, Deb DeWitt, who's the candidate of the administration for all boards that they need puppets for.
Yeah.
And then they have who was the other one?
Croce.
Croce, whom I really don't know, and he serves on a couple of boards, but they don't want you. So if one of those 3 don't show up, they should have went forward with the interviews, and then we don't know what the circumstances were that they couldn't make the meeting. If it was something that was important, then you make time for them to come in another time. Or you cut them off the list. But they wouldn't want to do that. They want to kill the process because you are on that whole thing.
You got too close.
Yeah. So as of after the cancellation of the interviews for the agenda of the Board of Selectmen, there was discussion of zoning bylaw review committee and some explanation about possibly disbanding the committee.
Yeah, right.
And then transferring all that responsibility over to the planning board proper.
Oh, yeah, right. And they don't meet enough. They need another meeting.
Right. So, the planning board is meeting twice a month already. Yeah. They have members that are sitting on other committees. CPA, there's a member who sits on Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, and I believe there's a few other responsibilities that they have. So, there's a board that's already
they don't
almost
have enough
overwhelmed
with the MBTA stuff coming in. They want to give them a little bit more.
Right.
Correct.
When I sat on the Board of Selectmen, I was advocating for a total review of the charter, which at that time, it was, I think, 28 years since the charter was reviewed, and typically it's written into charters that the charter is reviewed every 5 to 10 years in some form or fashion. But the Board of Selectmen went through this whole thing of diatribe, and they piecemealed it instead of having a full-blown charter review. Let's get out of the dark ages. Yeah. It's now, I've been off the board now, 15 years maybe? Maybe 10, 12 years maybe?
At least 10, yeah.
But yeah, so and they still haven't had a full-blown charter review. So it's going on 40 years of no charter review and just piecemealing it, which means
it takes time, John.
It's going to be.
We don't have staff for that.
With the zoning bylaw, those were initially approved by the town in 1985.
But my point is that they don't want a review that they can't control. See, so if they had a full-blown charter review, and they put it out to the town to elect people to a charter review, then you get people on there that would have an opinion that might not be theirs. They don't have control over it. Same way with this review.
So it could be like an aggressive opinion, is that?
Yeah, they don't want an opinion that isn't theirs. Kind of like the Democrats.
So isn't it amazing
how
it all circles
there was
together?
one statement that Ann Vandal had made during that particular segment about zoning bylaw. And it was that we have enough staff right now, and we don't want any more volunteers. I'm kind of paraphrasing. That's why she wants to dissolve a lot of these subcommittees, because we don't need them anymore.
Too many people.
Mind you, we're still trying to. I thought we were, a citizen government sort of thing, and
That's only when they want to
so what I believe what she had also said is that that we have enough staff that we don't have to support the volunteers. But my understanding with volunteers is that the volunteers were always supporting the staff.
Yeah.
Essentially, we're the government, we're going to take care of it, and we're going to take that responsibility from you, because honestly, that responsibility doesn't lie with the government. It lies with the citizens. And then the staff there, and I don't want to make it sound derogatory, but they're staff. They're supportive.
Right. And they want, the manager wants staff to be on these committees so that, again, she can control them.
Correct. So I mean, so the master plan, after it wrapped up, it said that we should have an implementation committee. And that's a very specific thing within the last chapter of the master plan. To make sure that, okay, we've spent 30 months on this document. We want to make sure that these items get addressed. And Ann Vandal also said that, we're not having that committee. We're going to take care of this all with staff.
Oh, I see.
So she'll...
Staff freed up again?
Right.
Yeah. Not for an ice rink.
No,
but
well,
for,
when it fits the right agenda, we have staff. When it doesn't, we don't have the staff for it.
So the items that become important are important to staff and not important to the town.
Yeah.
So, Richard, I understand that Warren Shaw was on WCAP a couple of weeks ago, I guess it was.
Last week.
Last weekend?
This last
okay,
weekend.
so this past week. And there was a discussion about that, and Heather Santiago Hutchins was on there, and they were talking about this whole thing, and I guess, Phil, maybe if you listened, you could just give
so it
paraphrase.
was so
we have the tape.
Yeah,
of that.
so I mean, it talked about the town manager trying to dissolve some of these subcommittees and stuff, and that she was really overstepping her bounds in what her authority really is. And it was actually suggested by, I think, Warren, that perhaps there should be a reprimand.
Yeah, right. From the Board of Selectmen.
From the Board of Selectmen, yeah,
you're
you're overstepping your bounds.
Wow.
You take your direction from us on these committees.
There should have been a reprimand a long time ago for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So if it hasn't happened yet, I highly doubt we're going to see that. Unless,
I
of
don't
course, we have an election that switches things up.
No, that's not going to happen. So what? I have something I want to throw out there because I got a message from one of our little birdies that was asking about certain books at the library. Have you heard about this?
Yes. So, of course, you remember the Rayleigh Campbell advertisement
Right.
that talked about the sexualized children books that she saw throughout schools in Massachusetts. And so some people did some digging on the Dracut Library website.
Yeah.
And, if they don't have a book there, they can outsource it and ship it and have it sent to you. And some of the books that they had available, I believe one of them was called This Book is Gay.
Yep.
Right? Another one was called, I believe, Gender Queer, a Memoir.
Yep.
And I believe that was the one that had the graphic...
This book
like a
is
comic book
This
type
book is gay book is in a lot of libraries, which is a lot of parents pushing back on because it is more sexually exploitive. Let's first preface our remarks by saying we are not, at least I am not, in favor of banning books from a library that have significant importance to our lives and to our country.
Neither are we anti-gay.
No, and we're not anti-gay at any stretch of the imagination. I have several good friends who are gay, and they are more conservative and more concerned about this than you would think. Yeah. But that book that we are talking about, This Book is Gay, it's called, it exploits and it explains in detail sexual activity between same sex. And it's graphic. It gives diagrams and it uses vernacular that you wouldn't use around your dinner table.
No, of course
but it's
not.
in the children's section of many libraries, and we understand that it is available in Dracut Public Library also, and I'm just wondering where that's going to go. And when does somebody stand up? I know that there has been posts on a conservative Dracut Facebook page.
Yes. I definitely saw some posts. It was in a group with the Sarah Powling, Rob Shepard people,
Right.
Who were the pro-choice masking parents. They had posted pictures. I'll find them and I'll repost them on our page of a bookshelf, like a book display in the children's section with all these type of books. And I guess they raised concern and it was indeed moved.
It was moved out of there.
From what I read, I'll double check,
Okay,
but I believe
make
so.
sure,
That is what
because
I
I
heard.
hadn't
That
heard
was
that it
back
moved.
a while ago when
That was a while ago, yeah.
Okay, because I saw those a while ago.
There was
Yeah.
also a posting on there that somebody raised to me about a video of Eminem and
Oh,
an
I saw
attempted
that.
suicide that was being talked about in a 6th grade class. Did you hear this?
Yes, I heard that. It seemed that it was a video, like you said, with Eminem showing a man being hung.
There was something on Facebook about it. Was that Dracut or was that?
That was
just-
Dracut Public
Dracut.
Schools. So
and,
yeah.
and I'm like, where are we going with all of this stuff?
You know, honestly, from the experiences I had in Dracut Public Schools, it doesn't shock me.
Right.
It really doesn't. You know, and as time moves on, and as Dracut has been hiring a slate of all new teachers, right? And of course, they're just graduating from college in the age of wokeism, right? They're all woke. Most of them are most likely socialist. Of course, they're going to push this type of agenda.
So they're all pronoun people.
Exactly. You know, I already saw elements of CRT being implemented.
Right.
So moving forward with this new slate of teachers, you know, can you imagine it's going to get any better?
Probably not.
I
Only
would really like to do an expose or an investigation on where Dracut parents have input as to what is being taught in public schools.
Well, according to some people who work with schools in the town, parents should not have a say.
Is that unbelievable?
That is absolutely unbelievable.
That is unbelievable.
When I heard that, I barely even responded because I didn't even know where to start.
I heard
didn't even
it
know where to
too,
start.
and I didn't respond. But
It wasn't the time or place.
At some point, I'm going to have a conversation
With that
about
person,
it,
yeah.
because when did public schools become dictatorial to make it that shut up, we know better what to teach your kids?
If it's not parents who are getting, I know you have a child in the Dracut school
do,
system,
yeah.
so if it's not the parents deciding the curriculum, who is it? Whose responsibility is it?
Well, parents should have a say in it. Who is it? It's school committee right now. That's about it.
And they're elected by the people, and
I think
they're
it
there
gets
to
bigger
take
than
input
that.
from the people.
I think it's bigger than that. I think it goes to this acronym DESE.
Yeah.
And they have corralled the school committees into thinking that they're really not in control. DESE's in control.
Yeah.
But all things go back to local control. Even your U.S. Constitution says that the states should have control over certain things, certain aspects of your life and liberties. And if you believe in the Constitution, then you believe that there are certain things that are regulated by the federal government, but there are also statements in the Constitution that says the federal government will not dictate certain issues to states, that they're left to their own demise, so to speak, of what you want.
It seems whenever they try to pass the buck to DESE, it reminds me of one time in history when soldiers would put their hands up and say, "I was just following orders. I don't know what I was doing. It was just passed down to me. I'm just doing what I was told." And of course, school committees aren't, of the same ideology of those soldiers, but that action in particular is a direct comparison, and I think it's horrifying. It's absolutely horrifying.
Angel, I know DESE is a state agency. And I know all about that. I know. You're not informing us anything, but the state is also taking their cues from the federal government and the Department of Ed from the federal government. And when this wokeism came about, it's permeated into every aspect
Trickles
of
down.
government. And it's been trickling down, and you now have close to a majority of people that don't want to be involved in, like you are, Angel. You're involved. And they don't like you because you're involved. And you know who I'm talking about. The bottom line is, I think that parents are the ultimate say as to what your child is taught. I certainly don't want a teacher to be teaching my child whether or not they should be what gender they want to be. That is something for us in my household to discuss. Same way with sex education. I'm not talking about health education. I'm talking about sex education. That should be something that is discussed with your parents somewhere along the line. What's right and what's wrong and how.
Not in 6th grade.
Not in 6th
No,
grade.
of course not.
I mean, believe me, they learn a lot on the street. So
Yeah.
you need to talk to them at an early age, but not to the point that they're now teaching them in education. These people think that they should be. You can be whatever you want. You can be a horse if you want to be a horse.
Yeah, they certainly
wanna be a
took.
horse,
They
be a
certainly
horse.
took. You can be whatever you want, and took it to a
whole.
Yeah, so
extreme.
right. So the problem is they're trying to teach sex education when they're not at a maturity level to actually understand it.
Personally, I'll say my opinion is no matter where you sit on this, right? My whole philosophy is that it needs to be up to your municipality, right? If the people of Dracut vote that they do not want that information in their schools, then so be it. But if Chelmsford or what have you, their parents decide that yes, for whatever reason they do want their kids learning about pronouns or any of that, then so be it. You know what I mean? It's my same opinion on the tearing down of the statues. It needs to be up to the municipality and the people of that area, right?
Yeah.
Because schools are supposed to represent the values of that sect of people.
Well, Phil, we've already lost so much history in the United States.
It's horrible.
Just by taking down certain statues. And
Oh,
changing
absolutely,
things around.
absolutely. I certainly disagreed when they started taking down statues of Confederate soldiers.
Yeah.
Because after the Civil War, they were repatriated. They are American citizens.
Right. And because you didn't like what happened in the South, doesn't mean that you should just forget about what happened in the South. I mean, we don't learn about the wrongs that were made by covering it up, right?
Exactly.
And you don't learn about slavery while covering it up and saying that we want to abolish slavery, but yet we demand that you get a vaccine. Right?
Exactly.
So you get guys like Fauci out there saying, you need to be, we have to have a world document that you get stamped before you can travel from one country to another. That's the new world order. That's what's coming, folks. That's what's coming. You're not going to be able to go to Florida without a stamped document that says you've been vaccinated, right? If they have their way.
Well,
right
put a
now, the
tattoo on
world
your
wants
wrist,
to
so-
make it so you can't go to Spain or you can't go to Italy. I mean,
Well, it's already starting with the real ID.
right.
A lot of people consider that to be a stepping stone in this whole
Well,
whole process.
the real ID would be a good thing if it wasn't going to be used for nefarious things like what you're saying, right? Because the passport, you need a document that says you're a legal citizen of somewhere, right? And that you need something that identifies you, or otherwise you have what you have on the southern border. You have people coming in, child trafficking, drug trafficking, and just walking across the border, but not through an entry gate, right?
Exactly.
So, anyways, that's enough of the pontificating on my end with this stuff.
And one more thing I have to touch on is with the Civil War statues, the Confederate statues. If you look throughout Massachusetts, there are plenty of monuments for British soldiers in the British monarchy during the Revolutionary War. Why is it that you don't hear a fuss about those and that we tolerate that?
Don't make any suggestions.
Yeah, yeah, seriously.
Thank you for
Seriously.
bringing that up.
Next thing you know, we're going to be shipping the British soldiers' bodies back to England.
Right. Rob Shepard is saying that there's going to be, there is a curriculum night to inform parents of what will be taught throughout the year. I guess this is something that we should be having, if I'm correct, right? And ask questions. That would be a great thing to see in Dracut. I agree with you, Rob. I mean, when I was a kid, they were begging you, parents, to be involved. Yeah. PTAs, PTOs, whatever you want to call them. But now all the PTOs is a fundraising aspect for things that we couldn't pay for as taxpayers, instead of being intimately involved in what you're teaching the children. And public schools was created by a man by the name of Horace Mann, who said that we should be providing public education, but we should be teaching the basics. Writing, arithmetic, right? Spelling.
Well, not to mention nowadays, we've strayed so far from that. Not to mention nowadays, according to state media, you caring about your son's education makes you a terrorist. Mm-hmm. For attending school committee meetings and holding signs and speaking your mind, you're just as bad as the people who blew up the Twin Towers.
Well, you have a president
Yeah,
that has
no.
labeled every person that didn't
I
vote
was,
for him.
vocal for my son for things when he was in his past school in town, and they weren't happy with me over it, but I'm not going to stand down on any platform.
Well, now that he's in middle...
As far as the schools go, my wife's a middle school teacher in another town, another state actually, so I try to stay out of that. I try to avoid that fight, so to speak, of voicing my opinion too loud. We've had a couple arguments, and I've said to her, I said, do all teachers have like a code where you have to band together? That didn't end well for me.
Oh, I bet it
So, one thing though is we just had parent-teacher conferences, right? And my wife took care of it. Love her, she takes care of all that stuff.
Yeah.
I get them ready and off to the bus. She does the homework and that type of thing. But what got me was she had to go on Zoom for the parent-teacher conference.
Oh,
really?
Recently?
I'm horrible with dates. The last night or the night before, I was at
my
home.
God.
I haven't been on town meetings.
So that'd be recently.
I'm seeing more at home, like just this past week. And it was Zoom only, and she had, 5 minutes with all of his teachers on a camera. I'm like, for her, being a school teacher, like she's like, I want to see how a classroom's set up. I want to see how this is, how that is.
Oh, no.
That doesn't work.
Because that's the laziness that has invaded us since COVID.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to get on Zoom than it is to face somebody.
A lot easier to have a one-on-one conversation and actually get the tone and feel how the teacher really is.
But you'd have to get up, go in your car and go to the school, and the teacher has to be at the school after hours.
I mean, my son's worth it to me. I'd go.
Absolutely.
Of course.
But
do you know, I was born in 2004, and when I was in kindergarten, do the math, because I'm not going to do it.
Which was yesterday.
Which
2004,
pretty much.
Jesus, yeah.
My mother, my grandmother, would come in the classroom for a day and be like an assistant teacher or whatever you called it, and then help out with the kids.
Yeah.
What happened to that?
Yep.
Seriously. Now, where your son is in middle school,
Yeah.
has he had any experiences that you wouldn't mind sharing, that you that alarmed you, I suppose?
Not really in middle school. He's been actually pretty good in this school. Back when he was at the Inglesby school during all this stuff, he had a headache.
Yeah.
And he gets sent home on COVID protocol for a simple headache. And I could not bring him back to school unless I had a doctor's note. And I said,
Did you have to have a test too to make sure you
no,
didn't have COVID?
I had to have a doctor's note. I said, that's absolutely ridiculous. It was a headache.
Right.
And they gave me the protocol, and it went a whole thing. I was emails back and forth with the school committee and the principal and everything, and I kept him out of school for about a week because I refused to take him to the doctor.
Right.
It's not my money type of thing, but you have other parents in this community that can't afford co-pays and whatnot, so now they're being forced by the school to go to a doctor to pay a $25, $50 copay, depending on whatever you have, to get a note that says your kid's not sick, he can go back to school because he had a simple headache. When they were trying to implement the sports procedure for 6th to 12th graders on my 5th grade son. Mm-hmm. And it ended up with phone calls between me and Stephen Stone and him allowing my son to go back to school after being out for a week because I was steadfast on this isn't right. I'm not going to make an example out of this. It was,
Yeah.
It's principles there. It has to be, everything should be right. Like, you can't kick a kid out because he had a headache when your protocol says you have to have 2 symptoms and he had 1, and the school nurse just doesn't want to deal with it. So luckily this year we haven't had any issues. I haven't had to have any battles at the school, but the year prior it was a different atmosphere.
And I think that's what's going to bring change in our public schools. It's not the parents who are so concerned with ideology and the political parents. It's the parents who, while they care about other kids, they mainly care about their own kid. And when their kid is messed with, that's what's causing them to get up and speak and go to these meetings and connect with other parents who are saying, oh, you also had an experience similar to that? And that's what's forming these movements. It really is a grassroots.
I kind of kept my son out, for the other parents that don't have the ability to do certain things. And, he could get the makeup homework. It wasn't that big of a thing. It was just, how do you kick somebody out for that? Like, this policy has to be addressed. Yeah. This policy has to be changed. And that's what the goal was there. So.
Yep.
Well, John, don't you feel so lucky your kids aren't in
No, I have grandchildren that I'm worried about.
I'm sorry.
I'm worried about grandchildren now,
Wow. By the time they get up to high school, can you imagine what it's going to be like?
They don't live in Dracut, so I don't have to worry about that. And, the 2 younger ones are the 2 oldest grandchildren go to a private school, but next year they're going to a public school. And my daughter's a teacher, and my wife is a paraprofessional, been that way for many, many years. So they're involved in the schools and they see what's going on, But I just hope that, that wokeism doesn't get to the point where kids aren't learning what they should be learning. And that's a problem. I mean, my good friend John McDonough, right? I go on his show occasionally, and he's always asking, what's the story with the MCAS?
Yeah.
Where are the testing scores? They've all gone out the window since COVID,
Yeah.
and everybody's dropped precipitously since COVID. And the bottom line is that we're not teaching kids the way we did 10 years ago.
No,
we're not teaching
of course
kids the
not.
way we taught 5 years ago.
No, and whatever teaching that there is, the teachers are being driven to teach to the test.
Yeah, it's just
Exactly.
wrong.
What year did you graduate?
22. This year.
22.
Yeah.
Last year.
What year did they teach you how to balance a checkbook?
No.
I had to take a specific elective for that my senior year.
What year did they teach you cursive?
They stopped in the 4th grade. I had to teach myself over COVID.
Now,
So
Can-
how do
can-
you sign a checkbook?
does
You
your
know how to write
son
your name?
write in cursive?
No,
Does not?
no. They don't
So
teach him that.
could he read cursive?
Probably not.
So he couldn't read the Constitution as it
No.
was written, the Declaration of Independence. He could not read it.
Well, I'm
The
in an
original
environment.
document.
So there's
That's a
the
shame.
problem there.
That's a big problem.
Yeah.
So now you're going to have to take your child and bring him somewhere other than a public school to teach him
I have a
cursive.
wife who's an English major who's
There
a
you
school
go.
teacher,
So she should do it,
She'll
right.
take care of that for me.
Yeah, but
Love you,
Richard had to
dear.
take a course, right?
Well, I had to teach myself.
teach
I actually
self-taught.
printed out
Okay.
the test things on the paper that you trace.
Okay.
And I had to teach myself. Can you believe that?
And you did, though.
I did.
Yeah.
Now it's all I write in, actually. Horribly,
Yeah.
but it's all I write in.
Okay.
Well, the
You
good
know-
news is they're not teaching anybody else, so to everybody else, yours is perfect.
This is true.
I hope
This
you're
is the
using
point.
the Palmer method.
We got 6
I am
minutes.
using the Palmer method.
6 minutes.
So this last 6 minutes, would you like to get into want to have a little fun?
Sure.
Okay, somebody had mentioned something called the gobble game, which I don't know if it's new or if it's an older thing. I personally have never heard of it. But I guess the idea is you state certain people and we rank them on how much of a turkey they are, right?
Right.
1 gobble being you're not much of a turkey, to 5 being I don't know if you
You're
should
a
have your job.
Yeah, right,
personally.
okay.
So let's name a few people, right?
Right.
A big person of this evening, Ann Vandal.
5 gobbles.
5 gobbles. Can we have an example of these gobbles?
Josh Taylor. That's 1.
1 gobble.
No, that's just one example of
Yeah.
why she's a 5 gobbler.
Yeah. Josh?
For Ms. Vandal,
Yes.
we broke the scale.
What are we up to?
Got to be somewhere close to 10 gobbles this week.
10
Oh, boy.
gobbles.
There you
10
go.
gobbles.
Uh-oh,
Phil.
Phil.
I'm between 3 and 4. I mean,
Between 3 and 4?
Yeah, I if she wants to put the effort in to get better, I think she should and she could. But she doesn't really have the support from the Board of Selectmen that she would need to do that.
The long term, her gobbles are going up.
Yeah.
You think so?
Especially in the town hall. You heard Josh earlier say that how people are leaving town hall.
Yeah.
It's usually because they don't like who they're working for.
I mean, I'm kind of more aligned with Phil. I'll give her 3 because I do see room for improvement, but I also, at the same
And
time,
you're
don't see
also
that
a kiss ass.
Yeah,
Well,
you're
this
the
is
you're the
true.
host
This
of the
is true.
show. You're trying to remain neutral. I get it.
All right, let's steamroll right along,
Yeah.
okay? Tony Archinsky.
0.
0 gobbles.
Yeah, I'll go 0 to 1.
I'd probably give him a 1. I mean, there are some
1.
things that I certainly disagree with him on, but for the most part, I mean, he does his research. He certainly looks after what he's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
There's no one sitting here that has had more interaction with Tony Archinsky on both sides of the fence. He ran against me as a selectman, and we had some pretty knockdown, drag-out conversations. But I'm still telling you that in this environment today, Tony Archinsky deserves a 0 gobble.
You know,
Zeros are pretty tough to give. There's
You know,
always
right.
room for improvement.
I'll give him 1 because he votes Democrat.
Okay, I can do that. Sorry, Tony, you get my 1 out of that. I can
See
do
how
that.
few words it took
Yeah,
to
yeah,
really.
you swayed me.
You know, let's stick with the Board of Selectmen.
It's all in fun, but go ahead.
Let's
Yeah.
go to Chairwoman Allison Genest. How many gobbles? Phil?
I'm almost with the scale that Josh had given previously.
Breaking the scale again. Is it with a 10?
Since the scale only goes to 5, it will be a 5.
Okay.
But there's very little redeeming there.
There aren't enough gobbles in this world to place on her.
5 for
She's
Phil,
an
not enough for
abomination.
you.
She's an abomination, and if there's a candidate that's good enough that runs, that she should get beat. But the status quo in Dracut is that you'll get 3,200 people out to vote, and she'll probably win. A majority of those people who walk around with a hand of ass wipes.
That's how it goes.
That's how it goes in Dracut. There's just not enough, I mean, she's just not. She's not good for the town.
Not fit for
No,
office,
she's not
personally,
good
I
for
would
the
say.
town.
The host going to go with a 3 again?
I'll give her a 5 actually this time.
Wow.
I'll give her a 5. You? Does she also break the charts or?
I'd go 4 to 5 on it.
4 to 5.
4 to 5.
Now, what about Heather Santiago Hutchins?
That's a 0 to 1. I
0
can't
to
give a straight 0, so it's somewhere between 0 and 1.
That's
Heather asks a lot of questions. She's one of the ones up there that really takes that job seriously, in my opinion. And she's running again, I hope, and I'll be out holding her sign.
Yeah. I'll give her a 1 for personal reasons because she's supposed to call me back about something, and she still hasn't. So once that happens, I'll downgrade to a 0. John?
0.
0.
Heather Hutchins and I go back a ways, not to a point where we go out to dinner or anything like that, or have drinks or whatever, but she supported me when I was a candidate, and for my terms that I was on the Board of Selectmen. She was a good person. She's a good person now. She's become a star, as far as I'm concerned, on the Board of Selectmen. She has a personality that's level and
Absolutely.
even, should get reelected overwhelmingly, and I hope she does, and I hope that I'm not the kiss of death that she doesn't.
All right, Phil.
I'm going to go off the board and say she's a slice of pumpkin pie.
There you go.
Very nice.
There
Very
you go.
nice. Let's see, Joe DeRocco.
Not enough gobbles in the universe for him, because this man is just an abomination. And even a guy that I had some really knockdown, drag-out fights with, Warren Shaw and I, and we've come a long way to where we were a few years ago. And he even says that the guy's not, he's not helping the town, and I just totally think that he's way overstayed his welcome. It should have been gone a long time ago. Terrible guy.
Well, I'll give him a 4.5 because I try to respect my elders.
Yeah.
Josh?
Judging by the performance at the town meeting where he was, giving in information on the seed shed that wasn't even accurate, he tops the chart for me.
Top the charts.
There you
Phil?
go.
He's on the top of the charts.
All right, lightning round. Gordy Scott, Teflon Don, who is not here. Phil? That's what he gets. He should have been here. 2.
He gets 3 gobbles for not being here tonight.
I give him 1. It would be 2, but he is the Keno master after all. Josh?
I'll just go with a 1.
1. Okay, lightning round. Let's see, national politics. Well,
Jennifer Kobzinski.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jennifer Kobzinski.
The hand puppet of Allison Janess. She gets a 10.
I was actually going to go like a 2-3 on that, because
Really?
for the seed shed, she came out, she sat at the meeting, she formed her own opinion, and she voted in favor of it. She didn't follow the crowd, so there's some hope there.
Well, she was probably given permission that one time.
She's on life support system.
The last selectman meeting, I thought she asked some very good questions.
I've seen improvement.
I'll give her a 3.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it from the Gobble Game, from a bunch of turkeys sitting up here.
We're all turkeys for sure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in on this wonderful Thanksgiving Eve. And remember, when it's Wednesday and it's 6:30, it's What's Happening Dracut. Good night.
Thanksgiving. Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.